ourselves will guide us, we ourselves will show us direction. If we look back at our history, there are ample examples, there are ample people who have said that how we should proceed, how we should move. I think that the direction lies within our culture, within our people, within our own heritage. We don't need to look outside for a direction. We have that direction, and on that direction we need to move. And regarding the law student in me, and sir also told about some pragmatic things that you need to draw some plans. Yeah, I think that regarding education, now we have 21A, which says that, which gave the fundamental right for education. That is, everyone from 6 to 14 should have fundamental education and shouldn't be, used for forced labor and other things. But I think that that's the beginning. That's not the end. We need to proceed forward. And sir said the time is up. So I will like to wrap up my speech that saying that need to emphasize on education, our healthcare, and so empowering the youth will lead to the shaping and development of our future. Thank you.
What about the applause? Right, let's have the applause first. আপনারা হাততালি দিচ্ছেন না, এত কষ্ট করে বলছেন, এই একদম শীতকালের দুপুরে বার বেলায় সেই জন্যে। কিন্তু দেখো কি সুন্দর সূর্যের রশ্মি এই অদ্ভুত এই ইমারতের উপর পড়েছে। এটা দেখেও কি আপনাদের মনে হচ্ছে না হাতটা বার করে একটু হাততালি দিই? ঠিক আছে, some kind of molecular attraction. But yes, know thyself, Devambu, that's very important. But you should then have a direction even in knowing thyself, as Mayuri points out. Otherwise, you will be discombobulated. That's very important. So you must know yourself. And as I repeat, I do not entirely agree with you when you say that we must only look within the country. Why do we have these narrow barriers at all? What is the harm? If you say, know thyself is what Socrates said, it's also what the Gita says, Perhaps dear Prime Minister should know that many of the things that are being quoted and many of the things that are being done in the country have echoes elsewhere. The Vedic mathematics of Aryabhatta, for example, we've just had a seminar on Vedic mathematics, is possibly echoed in Lagrange's formula. I can say that with authority because I'm a student of mathematics. So this is important, that Archimedes invented flotation, right? But you could have done it in your bathtub too, provided of course you didn't go out with the all together after that and said Eureka. That is of course besides the point. But the same thing could be discovered by different people, right? Leibniz did it, and Newton did it, and this Vedic mathematician also did it. So it happens. Anyway, your point is taken that we need to look within, we need to look within our country and a direction can be shown. Thank you. Now to Tarunima, but you must keep within the time limit, 2 minutes. All right, thank you.
Good evening again. I think when Hegel was talking about how knowledge is achieved through a process of dialectics, that defines how we should achieve knowledge in real life as well. Because we are just presented with a thesis, and then presented with an antithesis, and then we are presented with a synthesis that we arrive at ourselves through debate and dialogue. And that is how we should understand how the youth should be motivated, because the problem here is not whether the youth have energy or not. The concept here is that whether this energy is directed or not, because directionless energy is of no point, because it's not doing anything productive. More importantly, when we are talking about the lack of youth participation, it's because of the lack of leadership. And this leadership has to emerge from the youth. When we quote someone like Rahul Gandhi as the youth leader of this country, and he's a man in his 40s, and he's supposedly supposed to lead us all, but he's the most lost amongst us all. So when we look at leadership, we need to find leaders within ourselves and amongst us. And that is very important, because when you're talking about wandering and looking for a direction, once you reach that direction, please stick to that direction, which is something that the youth fails to do, is that we use this time as a time where we can wander, make decisions, do everything, and we take it as an infinite thing, that we will be forever young. But that's not the case. You are this productive at only a specific stage. And if you don't make use of this productivity by translating your thoughts into actions, by guiding, letting your principles guide you as to what you're supposed to do. When Sir brought out the concept of education, which has been brought up by a lot of the panelists, we are talking about compulsory primary education, but no one is thinking about what is taught in the name of education. We should envision a syllabus that is more gender neutral, that accommodates all the people across and goes beyond these artificial constructs such as gender, such as caste, such as class, because for us it might not be a harsh reality, but for a lot of people it is. Hence, philosophical deliberations are for the rich and not for the poor, because for them it doesn't matter. It's us who can sit here and talk about it, and we're a minuscule minority, which is why this is the direction that our society is in currently. Thank you.
Thank you for understanding my direction, which was different in this case. It was the cut rather than the wind up, because we're coming close to the 4:30 mark and we have still one speaker left, that is Prakriti, but your points are taken. You want education to not discriminate in any way and to be open, and you certainly want direction. I mean, to quote of Sidhuism, energy without direction is like what Sidhu says, an envelope which doesn't have an address doesn't go anywhere, does it? So that's a Sidhuism. Okay. Over to you, Prakriti.
Well, coming close to this discussion, close of this discussion, let's say that it takes great strength to see the world not as it is, but as it should be. And maybe that's where the youth today is so important, because they have the mindset to see a world full of opportunities and the drive to go out and achieve their goals. If we are talking about how the youth is shaping the world globally, we can talk about how various young people are engaged with the white helmets. We can talk about people who are joining WWF. We can talk about the great Leo DiCaprio, who's finally got his Oscar and is working for saving wildlife in many areas across the world. We can talk about all the young people who are engaged in Teach for India, who go to the slums of the nation and make sure that every child knows how to read, how to write, and has the capability of building a better future for himself and his family. We are a young country, as pointed out by a lot of panelists, and in order to reap this demographic dividend, we need proper direction. And I'll tell you why direction is important. At the start of this year, when I got my Fat Book of Marketing from Kotler, I had all the information the marketing world could probably have, but I was still lost because I did not know the correct way around it. Coming close to the year in 2016, I know my way around it, and it's become such a revelation going through the book. And ladies and gentlemen, we also need to understand that direction is not something that can only be passed on from the elder generation to the younger generation. Knowledge is not unidirectional. Progress is collaborative, it's inclusive. And like Michelle Obama pointed out, all of us belong to the world. We all have an equal right to the world, an equal right to be who we want to be, the way we want to be. And that is precisely why we all need to collaborate and find better solutions for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakriti. I think we've come to the end of it. I'll just give a very quick summing up because we are going beyond the time limit. I'd like to say that the youth can definitely participate and take the country forward by programs like these, discussions, debates, and it would be good if these could be recorded also and published as a monogram. That's the first step. Second is, the youth must be, yes, given positions at different levels of administration. At the college level, at the university level, at the doctoral level, at the postdoctoral level. Only then can the education system be transformed. They must also have positions at the administration at the bureaucratic level. Even though they may not have the qualifications to be there, if we can supplant that, subvert that, and come to a position wherein some people are deliberately introduced. Like, I come from the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. On our governing council, we have students and ex-students actually officiating in matters of policy. So youth have to be involved in matters of policy. This is number 2. Number 3 is youth has to be allowed to write in major journals, even peer-reviewed journals. They need to be able to write in daily newspapers. They should be given that opportunity. Obviously, there could be a screening procedure, but as I said, youth is not an amorphous mass. There will be 3 or 4 people who will be really competent, and major dailies all over the country must take writings from people below the age of 25, let's say, or below the age of 22, or someone in college, or even someone in school. So writing, public forum, obviously, and most of all, there has to be put in place a mechanism wherein several movements can take place. Movements for art, for the preservation of architecture, movements for science, for the taking forward of scientific inquiry. I'm very sad to point out that in India, and perhaps in the world also, in the last few years, no very major scientific discovery has been made. Although the 20th century saw the discovery of the microwave, which is actually done by Jagadish Chandra Bose, the credit went to Guglielmo Marconi. Shodin Bose with Einstein, that is in the 50s. And much later, Dr. Steptoe claimed the test tube baby, but it was our Mukherjee here who actually was responsible for the development of the test tube baby. And many such, of course, Steve Jobs and others in the field of electronics and cyber areas have come, but we require something path-breaking, which is not happening, a path-breaking paper. And of course, in other fields of engineering, everywhere, if we have the lone voice, the new voice, the unheard voice, the right to dissent, the voice that gives you the right to dissent, then and only then can the youth really shape the country. I'll end but with 2 comments on Rahul Gandhi. I hope he'll forgive me. I did not make very polite remarks about our Prime Minister. Let me even it out. One of the reasons why you find him lost is that for a long time, Rahul Gandhi was the quietest man in politics. Because for him, mum's the word. That is one. The second is, there is someone who said that Rahul Gandhi reminds us of an iceberg. 80% unseen, 20% seen, and 100% all at sea. Thank you very much. An iceberg. Yes, if you want to ask the panelists any questions, please don't ask me any questions. I won't be able to answer them. Any questions for the panelists? Yes? Can the mic be given?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, one thing which I think there was some consensus on was the need for directionality. But at the same time, this directionality seemed to be, the basis for this directionality seemed to be affective things like angst and mainly feelings, energy, angst, all these unquantifiable things, very qualitative things, right? What is angst? Whose angst is angst and whose angst is not angst? Like, these are questions which were not necessarily for this forum, but how then do you have youthful directionality that is unidirectional, or like, you cannot have directionality, you cannot direct the country through.
All right, you made your point. Can I ask Mayuri to answer this question, please?
So I think that even though you think angst is emotion-based, I think one of the biggest powers that the youth has is their emotional quotient. While I disagree with my panelists who said that we must be developed physically, emotionally, mentally and everything, I do think that emotion is one of the youth's trump cards, and emotional decision is not necessarily a bad decision just because it's taken with an emotional basis, whether it be angst or anger or fear or whatever it is, or whichever way they choose to take that decision, even if it is qualitative. I feel that it is enough grounds for the youth to get direction.
All right. Thank you. Any other question? Yes.
See, we have heard a lot of wonderful deliberations, arguments. The moderator has also spoken about a revolution of a different kind in the form of the revolving door of the Statesman House, in which if you do not kind of deviate from Newton's first law, you may end up doing the same thing over and over again, which would be a repetition of Shunyate ke Shuru, some sense of the term. I wanted to ask each panelist here, in the light of what is being discussed, we have had two slogans today, just do it, and the other one was not spoken out from the friend from Jadavpur, but then that I presume would have been Hope Colorado. Whether any of the other panelists have a slogan in the light of today for the youth, just there, thinking on your feet.
Okay, Tarunima, you better think on your feet.
Think and do, don't just do it.
Okay, anyone else? Prakriti?
Follow your heart, but don't forget to take your brain along.
Okay, good. I think that sums it up, all right? And thank you to Victoria Memorial for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to the panelists for this lively discussion. It needs to be lively every time, even if we have difference of opinion. This liveliness is very important. Much of the world is deadening, you know, particularly on winter afternoons in the British Council in the Western Quadrangle. And when youth looks at old age, as in Citizen Kane, there's this famous dialogue with Joseph Cotton, the character playing Jedediah Leland says, old age, it's the only disease that you don't look forward to being cured of. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. Thanks to each one of the panelists and to the moderator, of course. It has been a wonderful panel, and it has also been a rare audience in every sense of the term. So thank you very much for those of you who were here and were absorbing whatever was said from this side of the floor. We have some certificates of participation for the panelists here. I would like to request the Administrative Officer of Victoria Memorial Hall, Mr. Nitish Kumar Das, to please come up here on stage, hand over the certificates and mementos to the participants. Torunima Panwar, you can stay on there. Okay. Moyuri Mukherjee. Prakriti Rudro, Shalini Sinha. Somoshekar Gangopadhyay, Devanga Goswami, and of course our moderator, Mr. Ashoke Viswanathan, who doesn't get a certificate of participation, but he gets a memento nevertheless. So, did you hold it? Okay, thank you very much. And let the discussion continue. As I mentioned earlier, this has been recorded. It was suggested by the moderator. So, if at all any of the panelists feel, and I'm going to do it in some of the places where I go, just play it for some other students and you know. So, if you think you find an opportunity where you can play this recording for your other young friends, please do let us know and we will lend the recording to you. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much, members of the audience. A cup of tea outside, of course. So please do have a cup of tea before you leave.